Don't you think those were racist comments?
I don't mind being a racist. I mean, I'm black, so I can be a racist and there's nothing white people can do about it. They can just be mad.
I think bethu umuntu yazi kunomuntu okuthiwa lo ufana nokuthi udrive usathana imoto.
It's less likely that they'll try anything to make matters worse for themselves.
Njani? Oh, when une network serious ngamanye amagama.
You should be terrified.
Now as well, you might be next, eh?
Basically, KO saying I accused him of being involved in AKA's assassination.
But were you not assuming? Because I think it is very deep for one to say
he needs to make sure that his brother speaks and tells the truth.
Yo, bangagwinye. Ngangena kanje mina. Ngingazi ukuthi angibuyi.
Whatever problem you can create and exacerbate, you can profit off of.
So you don't believe in the system?
Well, I mean, like
Rehabilitation.
So you can buy human beings.
Uyiphinde futhi yehle kahle.
I also framed my experience inside as sort of like a social experiment.
Nota, were you convicted and ultimately sentenced?
One needs to remember that what happened to Thabo Mbeki with Zuma happened to Zuma himself with Cyril.
No, now when kahle mina nawe sisoma.
Am I gonna keep quiet and let you get away with killing someone that I know personally? That's because there's media attention on that. GBV is a very profitable business.
Yeah, but there are people's life involved. Let's talk about the authenticity now.
As it pertains to Minister Mackenzie, I just got on the phone with my lawyer. My lawyer says, hey, that warrant is only...
Straight from the airport.
While I'm at the
airport. So it means you are hitting the ground running now.
Yeah.
They are transferring you straight. You are not reporting home now. Reporting to prison.
How long do you have to be in prison for you to be one of the prisoners?
In 3, 2, 1, call it mesh. Danke siyabonga South Africa. Grace and peace. I hope this finds you well and in good spirits. Sekufika lesasikhathi bakhethu sokushaya inja ngeyinja bese kufa enyinja. Bese khona lala akhala namhlanje. I think bethu umuntu yazi kunomuntu okuthiwa lo ufana nokuthi udrive usathana imoto. Uhamba ngo220 km/h because sathana akasabi ukufa. Ngibethe indoda engasabi ukufa. Ile ndoda engena kuphela bathi ngapha iyashaya bathi iyangena ngapha ishama oncoming traffic ishaya on goal ngiyikhulumele le ndoda. He needs no introduction. I'm sure you've seen him in many other platforms. Bengikubukele noSbu the other day, ngikubukele kuBrapen the other day, ngithi man lo mchita lo the way angakhona angikaze ngimbone umuntu ongena valo njengale ngwenya. Kukhona abanye bathi asinavalo yey baphazamiseka bashayeka i2 feet meyawuthi hey siyabonga mnganami ufikile bathi ikhaya lengana ivakashi bayathakatha abantu bakhona ngiphethe ubra Nota Baloyi.
Yo, thank you for that intro, man.
Thank you, my guy.
Yeah, where did you learn to speak like that?
Iyasekazi ke. The reason why sivulele show, we are priding ourselves because it DNA makeup yethu iyasekazi straight. Yabona mangithi ingenious le nabo Napster nabo Einstein bozobanika inkinga ngesikhathi sabo. So every generation has its own lion. You are the lion of this generation. The plug yakho le inokungishaya ngaphakathi ngoba uyawususa umsindo mara uqinulela ubaliwe nawe le kamfene. Welcome Nota, and I must say I don't take it light. I don't take it otherwise. Mele ngibonge nje ukuthi sana ufikile and to spend time now namhlanje abantu they've been saying uNota kunalabo uhamba khona uthi makhodi nani and ke for some reason namhlanje utheke imi hey ngiyangena ngiyobingelela imanje ngathi yo bangagwinye ngangena kanje mina ngingazi ukuthi angibuyi. My brother, shame, welcome to it.
Shame. Where was your dad?
Mangva, belkhona time alam. Every court appearance. Yeah, my mom and dad, every court appearance.
And then why didn't he make sure that you don't go in?
Njani? Oh, when une network serious ngamanye amagama. Oh, no connection.
No. I'm just asking, like how?
No.
It
did everything.
It was high and dry.
You know, I spoke to the other guy the other day. Behind the scenes, do you know what abazali bethu they are going through the most? and imedi yami bayithatha yavaya yaze enyangeni on my behalf. Mayifika la lenyanga ibeke istofu ibasile inyanga yathi nomela uhlale mzunyana mapunapuna kubila la kushisa so that lo muntu uzotrekela make fika yena wamtshela ke lezo bela yenze nan. So I'm just saying ukuthi i-timer you have to go through the most. Ugcina ama savings wakho wena mara mase kuyisikhathi ngcono wena njengawe ngiyabona ukuthi ubeke inyuku somewhere mhlawumbe wabamba ilotho ini. That is why uloku busy uvuruvaya abantu kanje ukrenda uthemba.
No, I'm good. No, I'm just saying, like, obviously, going to prison is very traumatic, especially for your family. Also, when you arrive there, I wasn't there for a long time, so I never even got contact visits. So you would know probably the visiting situation is not really proper. It's like you're practically looking at someone who's on the other side of the glass, but they're in hell, and you're on earth. You understand what I'm saying? So, like, basically, you're in orange, like a flame. It's like you're on fire. When you're looking at the person who's on the other side, it's like they're looking at you. You can see through their eyes that they're looking at someone who's in hell. You know what I mean? Whether they're smiling or not, you can see through their eyes with you.
Yeah.
You can see how you look through their eyes.
Nota, were you convicted and ultimately sentenced?
So I was sentenced as a part of a default ruling.
Yeah.
In a civil contempt matter. You know?
Yeah,
So I didn't appear in court. I couldn't appear in court, and I wasn't around. So my whole matter was basically some powerful enemies ganged up on me, and basically tried to scare me into submission.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I spent a lot of time. Like, I went to the States. I left the country, you know what I mean, for over a year. And I just hope I don't have any of your fruits on my beard.
No, nothing.
Yeah, okay, cool, thanks.
Yeah.
So while I was there, the rulings came through. My lawyers were busy dealing with it. We were trying to negotiate some sort of settlement. And they basically refused to settle.
Yeah.
At some point. And then they instructed like a sheriff to come fetch me.
Yeah.
For as long as I'm in their jurisdiction of Randburg West.
Yeah.
So I was in the States the whole time. So when I came back, because it was safer to come back, I got word that some of the people who could have been trying to look for me, the law had caught up to them. So it's less likely that they'll try anything to make matters worse for themselves, And so when I land back in South Africa on the 29th of December, 2023, so like I spent my whole Christmas, Boxing Day, like holidays, waiting on news. And I got it, I think just before Christmas.
Yeah.
But the flights around Christmas or before Christmas were just a little bit too expensive. So I got the earliest flight which I could get, which was on the 27th.
Yeah.
So I was in Miami, 27th. I fly back to New York where I was staying. I pick up my bag, straight to JFK immediately after. Back to SA. When I landed in SA, I think I connected through Ethiopia first. So I linked up with some other South African guys who were working somewhere in West Africa. So I came through Ethiopian Airlines, and then on the flight to Joburg, as soon as I get to the airport, the warrant comes up. And the police took me to the cells, like at the back. Cool. And then I just got on the phone with my lawyer. My lawyer says, hey, that warrant is only...
Straight from the airport.
While I'm at the
So
airport,
it means you are hitting the ground running now.
Yeah.
They are transferring you straight. You are not reporting home now, reporting to prison.
I didn't go to, because I was reporting to my lawyer. So my lawyer said, yo, that warrant is only actionable from this jurisdiction. Therefore, please let him go.
Yeah.
And you can take it up with your superiors. They called the superior. The superior was still at Bait Bridge at the border. And he was like, yeah, well, I guess his lawyer's right. So yeah, let him go. So from that moment onwards, it was like, okay, fine. I need to avoid going to Randburg.
But you are mentioning authorities because now, every situation, there has to be something that gave birth to that situation. So if you don't mind, what was the real issue around, or circumstances surrounding Imetayako? Because I know people have been talking, he said, she said, they said, but in the end, we are getting it, in bits and pieces.
The whole matter stemmed from basically KO saying I accused him of being involved in AKA's assassination, which is not what I did say. It's not what I said. So my intention throughout the whole thing was to say, KO, your brother, is AKA's road manager. He goes everywhere with him. I don't know, you did some DJing or you did some entertainment stuff before in your life. Yeah. That's actually how I met you.
I had a nightclub,
Yeah, as well. So you as a nightclub owner, you only talk to the road manager. You don't even talk to the artist.
Yeah.
Road manager knows each and every single move of the artist. Each and every single move of the artist.
Yeah.
Is overseen by the road manager. So him being AKA's road manager is because KO asked him to do that job. If you are my brother or you're my homie, and I say hire my brother as your road manager, you know that means I'm saying my brother is fit to be your capo. You can trust him. You know what I mean? He's watching your back everywhere you go.
Confidence,
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He sees everything. He watches everything. And, you don't hand that job over to just anyone that you can't trust. It's a very intimate job.
Sensitive, yeah.
It's very intimate. I mean, this is the first and the last person you speak to about anything. You speak through this person.
Yeah.
He's the person that speaks on your behalf. You know what I mean?
But were you not assuming, because I think it is very deep for one to say, I am talking with conviction, because the way how you're putting it, maybe let's say you use the figure of speech, because at the end of the day, they are saying when you narrow it down, it can only say one thing. Nota is saying, I did this. You know what I mean?
I wasn't saying he did anything. I was saying that he needs to make sure that his brother speaks and tells the truth.
Oh, seeing that he's the eyewitness, actually.
His brother's an eyewitness. His brother was right there.
Yeah.
And as someone who's also active within the hip-hop space, you've lost competition, right?
Yeah.
You've lost collegiality, or camaraderie, because we're all in the same space.
Yeah.
You've lost a lot. You should be hurt.
Yeah.
Also, you should be terrified.
Now as well, you might be next, because
you
you don't even know what's happening. Yeah.
So
an icon all of a sudden losing
don't
a
you
life
have
just like
all
that.
the incentive
Yeah.
to ensure that those who did this are brought to justice, so that it can be an example for anyone else who might try it on you the next time, that there are consequences for something like this.
Yeah.
It's too big to just get away with. You understand what I'm saying?
Do you at some point feel like these cases, they are not entertained enough, and cops are doing nothing, not enough? Because at times, I would borrow from your own words. If these cases these cases were treated like how they treated gender-based violence, do you think we would have all of these senseless crimes happening? Because when you say GPVF, chief, manje.
Yeah.
If angakhala umfazi manje kuyashuba.
That's because there's media attention on that. You know what I mean? That's because there's money to be made on that. You must remember that all these NGOs apply for funding globally. Around the world, there's funding. Hey, we've got a GBV problem in South Africa. Please give us funding. That's what gives them funding. And they can't get funding unless they've got stories of GBV.
So it's a narrative that's being pushed here.
I mean, it's a profitable business.
Okay.
GBV is a very profitable business.
Yeah, but there are people's life involved. Let's talk about the authenticity now. of these cases, do you think others are genuine and organic cases that really took place? Because if you're saying, let's talk about COVID. A lot of people had said, no, man, a crisis we are a creator. It's man-made because it needs a man-made attention and solution. So according to you, because you are saying there are a lot of, entities that funds the very same operation. So if there's nothing, there's no crisis, there's nothing to solve.
Well, other than there being nothing to solve, each problem is an opportunity, and each problem solution is like, how do I put it? Is entrepreneurship is about solving problems, right?
Yeah.
So I guess there's a form of entrepreneurship which is about creating problems. So whatever problem you can create and exacerbate, you can profit off of. So that's the incentive of a capitalist world, is that you need to create a crisis so that you can create opportunities. And that's the system that we live in. So everything is coded by that system. It's not even because of someone's malevolence or just because there's an evil conspiracy. It's, I guess, the manifestation of the capitalist system. Like, that's all it is. It's dog eat dog. It's, you know what I mean? As a result, it becomes very difficult to tread along a righteous path, right? And because we live in this system, and what we need to understand is that this system is designed by people who are not even fully 100% human beings. They're less than human beings. They're a mixture. They're like Homo sapien and Neanderthals. This is the Western system, So everywhere they go, they bring wreck, destruction, and havoc. Everywhere they go.
That's deep.
And there is no place where the sun touches that they haven't brought wreck, destruction, and havoc. Where they haven't caused a social upheaval, where they haven't destabilized people's ways of life, where they haven't perverted the civilization, And so what happens in a system like that is that the reason why it can perpetuate is that it's unsustainable. So it will happen in waves. And, Western, I guess, power has, cycles. You know what I mean? Probably maybe every 100 years or every 150 years, a certain empire will rise and then will be overtaken by another empire, and then will be overtaken by another empire, and will be overtaken by another empire. And the problem with these empires is that the only way that they can survive is to create disparities between people. So you'll have a rich people and you'll have a poor people. And then you'll always have more poor people than you've got rich people. That is the easiest way in which to keep the poor people desperate enough to do whatever the rich people are willing to pay them to do. And the rich people are trying to create systems in which they can pay the poor people as little as possible. So at first, they just, treat them as subhuman, and they trade them so you can buy human beings. And then, things become expensive to a point where now you don't have enough places to use the human beings that you've bought. And the human beings that you've bought, they get to a stage where, they can't be kept anymore. So you need to create systems where you can offload some of the unneeded energy and unspent energy. And then once you get to that sort of system, what happens is that you become expensive and you want to spread your wings and you want to go to faraway places. All of a sudden, the main thing that you were doing, whatever you were producing, let's say you're producing food, you were farming or whatever. Now your farm is working by itself. Now you've got a hierarchy of slaves that work for you. You are able to free your time to do other things. You are able to do art or whatever, travel the world, conquer other lands or whatever. What is happening back home is that, it's starting to, diminish in its value. So then what that creates is a system in which, you need to entrap people. Now it's vulnerable and there's lack of security. So people start to steal. You know what I mean? You need to have armed forces to create a law and order. And once you create a system like that, people will always look for the lapses in security that then arise. And when those lapses come, you need to now find a system to create a deterrent. And that's how you now get the prison system, which is another way of enslaving people. So all of these systems...
So you don't believe in the system?
Well, I mean, like...
rehabilitation.
I'm a realist. So I understand that you can't rehabilitate against the symptoms of the system that you are releasing people into. You understand what I'm saying? The manifestation of the violence and the criminality is a symptom of the system that we exist in. So I don't look at someone who's ended up in a life of crime as someone who's chosen that. I see that as the default. The default is criminality. And the unorthodox way of life is to live by the letter of the law. And only exceptional people have that privilege. And that's why, you find that it's very easy for the common person to watch a mafia movie, to watch a crime movie, and think to themselves, I empathize with that person. Do you understand what I'm saying? So we've seen many heroes on the screen that one would think, okay, but this person is supposed to be a monster or whatever, but you end up empathizing with them because life in general, for the person who's watching this movie or whatever it is, who's watching this character, life in general is so difficult that they can see what it takes for someone to feel like the system is so unfair and everyone that has taken it unfairly. So if I decide that I'm going to play fair, I must be a fool because those that have are able to, play by their own rules.
Whilst you're saying that, I know Guti, a lot of people now will be saying, hey, man, you were touching a sensitive issue of the late AKA, may his soul rest in peace, and you're talking about KO and. The matters are still in court, so we don't want to dwell much on that. And I mean, obviously, you had your own fair share of problems. But I want to touch on the system because you mentioned the system. Can you give me your let me say, your understanding with regards to a system and putting and placing our Honorable Minister now, Kingpin Mackenzie? I want to get your view, your insight on Uchi, the operation, not necessarily the party as it were, but him. He's from the system. He's one of us.
The prison system.
Exactly. Did his own, I think, 13 years or so.
So I just want to say, how long do you have to be in prison for you to be one of the prisoners?
No, 2 days is enough. Once you enter, because when you are integrated, listen, Chief, once you wear that orange uniform, when you put your fingerprints, in Pretoria, it says you are an ex. Whether you are reformed or not, but you're an ex-inmate. So now you are a prisoner. So now you are a criminal. So it says you're an ex-criminal. Finish. I don't care whether you stole Pampas or you stole whatever, you killed people. But once you enter and you come back, I know we had that argument, me and you are saying, no, mine was civil. There's no civil, nothing, Chief.
No, I'm not asking for that. I'm asking in terms of like, people always say, you are only in there for 10 days or whatever the case is. I was there for 18 days, but you know what I mean? So once you enter, you are... you know enough about prison. Okay. Because I mean, that's what I thought to myself, is that every day in prison is the same day. It's the same thing each and every single day. So whether you're there for 1 day or 1,000 days, it's the same day over and over again. It's Groundhog Day, the movie. In real life. You know what I mean? Every day you wake up and it's like, damn, I'm in this nightmare. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That's if so. Okay, yeah. But you were saying,
Uchi, Gayton Mackenzie.
yeah.
Your views, because I think he's one of the people. Sometimes, but it's better to be a has-been than a never been. And also, secondly, but it's better to use your testimony. The most powerful tool in the universe. It's one to use his or her testimony. So he's been there, done that. He understands the system, and imogolo, smuggling and all of that. I think in ministry at top. Ngiyacabanga ukuthi if we were take 18 Mackenzie, don't you think mhlambe they were using the right tool for the right job? So that is what I'm saying. When personally, what's your view? You've heard him. I mean, manje useparliament, firebrand, he's always on Twitter, and people have different views. But ngifuna ukuzwa ingqondo kaNota when it comes to him.
Well, I think he's a smart guy. You know, I think he's determined to prove himself as well. And for me, someone who comes from the prison system produces the same type of character. It's like a defect. It's like once you've come out of prison, you spend the rest of your life trying to prove your innocence or the fact that you've reformed yourself. So, which is a weird experience because, before I went inside, I already knew that I was going to go inside, you know what I mean? So it took over 2 years almost. It took almost 2 years for me from the warrant being issued to me actually going in, right? No? Oh, a year, yeah. So from October 2023 to October 2020. Well, I ended up going in October 2025, but yeah. So I got to mentally psych myself up. Yeah. Sorry, man. I thought you're gonna bring me another rooibos and cookies. So yeah. So when I was preparing myself to go inside, right, I had to create like a mental prison for myself. And I just avoided it for as long as I could, but there was a time where I was in the holding cell, right? Before I could go for trial. And while I was inside the holding cell, I prepared my mind mentally. I was like, okay, fine, I have to do this 60-day whatever thing at some point in time. So let me use this as practice. Let me psych myself up. Let me figure out how I can set up a routine. Let me figure out, how I can just relate with guys, create a mentality of me being inside, but being inside as a certain persona from outside, So I was basically framing myself as a window into the outside world, like as a guy who's going to go in there, update Amachita on what's going on outside, because I'm going out very soon anyway. And also just not get too deep into anything. You know what I mean? That's what it was. And that seemed to work out well for me. You know what I mean? And I built a strong rapport with a lot of the guys inside, mainly because I had an intimate understanding of the reason why they were all in there, despite the fact that, I don't have their charges with me or anything. I understand the system well enough. And therefore, when we're speaking, when I'm listening to them, it's not about me judging them or whatever the case may be, but it's about me trying to learn about their lives as much as possible. So, they opened up to me a lot, like almost everyone opened up, this is what's happening in my life and whatever, you know what I mean? And I was just someone that's willing to listen. So that endeared me, and I was happy about that. And I also framed my experience inside as sort of like a social experiment, as a testing moment. Because for me, the most important thing was feeling like even if I'm going inside, I'm wearing orange, the reason why I'm going is righteous. It's because I did not fold. They sent lawsuits, they threatened court, they threatened me in each and every single way one could possibly be threatened. And I said, over my dead body, am I going to keep quiet and let you get away with killing someone that I know personally? You know what I mean? And it is what it is. And from the moment I've been out, even when I was on my short parole of 42 days or whatever, or from the 5th of January this year, so it would have been like, 3 months now that I've been free from parole. Whenever I bump into people outside in public, they don't treat me like, I was wearing orange. You know what I mean? They treat me like, we're sorry you had to go through what you went through, but, you did the right thing. And that gave me a certain level of esteem with myself that I feel is lacking in many ex-offenders, because, if you have to either resort to crime or whatever, violence or anything else, you judge yourself based on whether what you did was wrong.
Yeah.
And if you know what you did was wrong, it doesn't matter what you did it for, what the reasons are. You'll never be able to overcome that sort of mentality within you. So with that, as it pertains to Minister Mackenzie, I can see it in almost every single thing that he does.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I guess it's a handicap that he has to deal with. But more than just a handicap, I think the attitude that he approaches it with is positive for me, And I mean, it's like the game of golf. If you've got a handicap, you play with your handicap and then you do what you do. It's not that extreme. So
It's not that deep.
It's not that deep. It isn't that deep. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So when it comes to the work that he's going to continue to do, I think we can look forward to him proving himself capable of even bigger things in future.
Do we really need to be politicians in China for us to attain power? Because a lot of people, decision makers, that's where buck stops. Because a lot of people are called now, you call them officials, ranks, but ultimately the buck stops ministerial level and president. I'm not in any way saying angibabona bo MMC abo MEC, but Lendo, do you think we really need someone or anyone can do this thing? Because into politics ngiyabona ukuthi kahle kahle singamlanda omunye simthintithe unyawuphe. There's no pun, but ngikutshela ivar mina ukuthi umuntu ohlakaniphile onengqondo silema ngayenza lento yepolitics. Do you think lento ifuna umthandazo, ifuna inyanga, or ifuna isigele, ifuna wisdom, ifuna ukuthi ube struggle for 30 years?
Okay, so remember you spoke about the day you went to prison. You thought you weren't coming back.
Yeah.
And I asked you, where was your dad? Your dad wasn't in the struggle. Your dad wasn't in politics. And that's why you ended up in prison. Now, your son might one day be in court. Do you think he wants his dad to be a politician or not?
Powerful question. Yeah.
That's the answer to your question.
So
for your own son's sake.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? For your own children's sake.
Yeah.
You want to be a politician.
No, now when mina nawe sisho manje. Uyangizwa ukuthi ngiyakuphi. No, a lot of people are still teased. Mamela, I declared, man, within 2026. Ngiya straight with ballot box. But people, namanje they're still taking aback to say, but Skeem, Mchana, we have never seen you burning tires and stuff. No nonsense, chief. I am telling you, if people can come together, in one voice, abantu badiniwe kuyafana mfethu, they have snubbed the votes, abantu ababhaya wasted ballots, abanye bathe mfethu we abstaining. We don't want nothing to do with this thing, because labantu laba, you are important as ex wako. But as soon as you are done, child, ama campaigns wabona abantu visible immediately after that child, even with religious spiritual leaders, sebakhathele nabo ukuthi anizalane yasiyuza niyazi ngine 5,000 seater then you are coming here because I'm important for my vote. Immediately after vote, send Koshliwan Sonti Noxont. And as you understand, so there's no party deal, no tit for tat. So hence I'm saying the question was important for me to ask you, Guti, into your politics, do you think into eyakudala ngathi ya inheritwa ukubona ngathi into yemonarchy la ukuthi ubaba wakho bekayini yini?
No, I don't think dynastic politics work, and that's why you find so much resistance to it. I mean, let's look at the example of former President Thabo Mbeki. I mean, the biggest thing that was hanging over his head before he assumed leadership within the ANC was that, are they just favoring him because he's Governor Mbeki's son?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's ultimately what took him out of the party, is that, you know, they felt like, we don't want dynastic leadership. And Mbeki is either aiming for, well, that too, but is either aiming for a third term, because he was contesting for a third term, or he's aiming to be like the spiritual father of the ANC, ex officio. You look at the example of Lindiwe Sisulu as well, you know, and fortunately, this thing can be seen. I had the good fortune of spending a lot of time with her father when I was a child, when I was still very young. I think I was 9 years old. At my primary school, one of the people that lived in my neighborhood, his grandmother was the head nurse at Naledi Clinic. And I think he had a foundation that funded Naledi Clinic. So she was organizing his 95th birthday or 90-something birthday. I don't know. So she also, because she lived in the same neighborhood as me, used to bring us back home. Like my dad would pick us up in the morning. Well, pick up my friend Raymond in the morning, Raymond Falcarelli. And then he'd drive us to school. And then Raymond's grandmother would bring us home, you know. So in that time, I think I solidified within myself that, you know, I know that politics is the only way in which to solve certain situations. That was also at a certain time in my life where, you know, a lot was happening with my dad. It's like maybe a year before, my dad got or 2 years before, my dad got a big tender, you know, was building properties, and then 2 years into it, the tender was not working out the way it was. And in the time that he'd got that tender to the time that happened, I think it was 2 years apart. And he'd taken me to a new private school, Radford House. And they decided at the school, after my father spoke to them and said, you know, he's run into some financial troubles and he can't even afford the school fees anymore. They said, you know, we'd rather insist that we have your son here than insist on you paying school fees. And from that moment onwards, I knew that, you know, I've got a greater responsibility than other people. I mean, at first I thought it was just a natural thing because I had a little brother who was 2 years younger than me. And so very early into my life, my mother was always teaching me, hey, you are the big brother, you know what I mean? And all that type of things. You must look after your little brother, you must be a good example to him. And so I had that pressure, but I never really internalized it until I knew that, damn it, I'm speaking to, you know, the guy that recruited Nelson Mandela. You know what I mean? And it's so funny because I was still very young. I was 8 or 9 years old at the time. But I was always a very talkative kid. I always had a lot of confidence. You know, my parents always used to show me off. Listen to our kid talk. Listen to this kid. So I built that confidence up. And at that point in time, I realized that, you know, what he was explaining to me about, you know, having to take leadership for our own lives and our future and how old they were now. You see,
Yeah.
You know, it was very simplistic, so that I could understand it as a child.
At that
But
time, yeah.
but it was very instructive at the same time.
Yeah.
You know, and I feel like I was unfortunate in that I never could have a childhood without being radicalized. I remember the first time I got into trouble at school at Redford House. It's because I told Stuart Dixon that I'm going to be president one day. I'm going to send him and all his family back to Europe.
Don't you think those were racist comments?
Well,
Think of it
I mean,
that way that time.
I don't mind being a racist. I mean, I'm black, so I can be a racist, and there's nothing white people can do about it. They can just be mad. You know what I mean? I can get away with it.
I was talking to an artist yesterday. He says to me, "Hey man, kahle kune cases so. Why bangayivusi labantu? Phela mina I thrive on controversy, chief. Mangana controversy angiholi." So now yabona ngithi uNota ushaya kuphela. Speaking on that, chief. The former president Jacob Zuma.
Yeah.
What do you think was happening? Now was a prison. People are always trying to paint a picture. Now we have Nota.
Yeah.
You have experienced a bit of both worlds. So then you can give us now your insight. What do you think was happening? Maybe Jup involved, because you are talking celebrities. Is the same thing? Now a president, the whole president was a president. What do you think was happening? From handing him over, processing the system. Do you think Mapian Bayenza the same thing?
You see, so we were speaking about Thabo Mbeki earlier and the dynastic politics.
Yeah.
So one needs to remember that what happened to Thabo Mbeki with Zuma happened to Zuma himself with Cyril. So for me, I think the only thing that I was pleased about is that at least the precedent has been set that a president can go to prison, as in for South Africa. You understand? So it became a possibility. But I was very disillusioned for the longest time because, you know, the media narrative is so controlled in South Africa that once you basically learn how to play the media game, you get brainwashed into believing what it says. You know what I mean? Because it's like when you're only allowed to play in a certain playground, you know what I mean? And you've never seen anything other than green grass, you know? When you see brown grass, you won't know what it is, you know? So when it came to Zuma, it took a lot to break the brainwashing about him. Because, you know, the funniest thing about President Zuma is that, you know, I started working under his presidency, so in 2009. And South Africa was a different place. Opportunity was abound.
Yeah.
And, you know, things could happen. Things were happening.
Yeah.
You know. And you never felt hopeless under Zuma throughout his tenure, no matter what was happening. You know, you never felt hopeless. You're like, don't worry, I can make a plan. And you could make a plan under Zuma. So by the time he got out, I think the frustrations had gotten to our heads. There were certain frustrations that everyone was feeling, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he ended up taking the blame, and it was very easy to believe the media narrative around it all. Because we need to also understand our history as a people, especially as a black people. Our existence has been criminalized. So we've got a higher propensity to believe that we are criminals than anybody else that does. You know what I mean? Like ourselves. So when someone locks their door in front of you, you don't even get offended anymore.
Nota will be back shortly. Betting should be easy and rewarding. And easybets.co.za makes sure it is. Whether you are a new or already a pro, there is something for everyone. First, you get a 50 Rand sign up bonus. No deposit is needed. It is that simple. Just sign up and enter the promo code SKWEM Skeem 50 to claim it. Looking to go bigger. Your first deposit gets you 150% boost up to 500, giving you an extra play without an extra spending. And even if you lose, you are not left empty-handed. They give back up to 15% of your losing bets every week. Who else does that? That's just the start. Join Easy Bets today and you'll discover even more rewards waiting for you. Sign up now and get into the action. Terms and conditions, T's and C's apply. Easy Bets Group Pty Limited is licensed and regulated by the Western Cape Gambling and Racing Board. No persons under the age of 18 may gamble. Winners know when to stop. Back to the episode. Nota, Asibambe.
And that is a very difficult thing to actually realize. You know, I only realized it when I watched that SABC One ad where the white guy is now living a life as if he's black.
Shacks, yeah.
Yeah,
And I was watching that interview. Why Penny that ad?
Yeah. Whatever the case may be about the ad, I mean, the story itself is that for me, growing up the way I grew up, that was the first time I realized that, oh shit, damn, they actually do that to black people. You know? And then understanding that, damn, I live in this enclave where I don't get to experience, you know, the brunt of racism that abjectly. And then when I'm outside of the enclave, I'm with only black people. So I also still don't get to experience that brunt of racism. So I don't look at black people with the same level of suspicion. You know what I mean? I'm not apprehensive to a person as if, hey, this is a skebenga. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't automatically think that. And that's also disarming to a lot of people because, you know, you are open and able to speak to people. So the impression that I got of Zuma is that he's got a disarming charm about him. And all the prejudices about him don't pass the contact test, because I had the opportunity to meet him face to face, but even though we didn't speak or anything of the sort, we had fact Durban Rocks at Tira's Marquee, and he came through to speak to the crowd, and Black Coffee was playing, and then my team was about to go on stage. You know what I mean? So I was DJing, so I had to set up. And from the transition between Black Coffee and us getting on stage, he was going to speak and basically introduce us on stage. And he came straight to the DJ booth and shook my hand. Like, unglandile. And, you know, from that moment, there was a chink in my armor about him. But, you know, still you're like, yeah, but you know what, maybe it's just a chance of occurrence. I'm just meeting him, or he's just seeing, or maybe he knows, okay, let me just be a charming guy everywhere I go. And after COVID, with everything that got revealed through COVID, you know, it was an awakening moment. You know, everything stopped. And you could basically see the forces at play and everything happening the way it was. You know, when the mask started landing, some of my homies got into the mask business. I was like, why? Okay, because his uncle is Patrice. They got business dealings with Jack Ma. So my homies are able to make money off of this COVID thing, while other people are not able to make money, not even able to go to work, and have to be put out of work. And then I realized that, nah, we're actually being fucked with. And now it's gotten so bad to the extent that, you know, if you grow up in the North, not everyone is the same in the North. There's some people who work their way into the North, and there's some people who were placed in the North, were placed there. You understand what I'm saying? As in, they've got their political connections, the business connections to ensure that they're always safe there. And the disparity between the two is vast. And it just became really obvious at that point in time that, you know, what we had during the Zuma era was at least a system where you could work your way up.
Yeah.
Now we're living in something of like a monarchy. You know what I mean? Where there are certain sacred families,
Yeah.
you know, and they rule over us in everything. They own everything. They're a part of everything, and they're I guess they see themselves as so much superior that they can take a former president to prison. And then it dawned on me after he'd come out. I think it was around the time of, the Phala Phala revelations. And then I was like, you know what? Actually, fuck it. I need to be a part of dismantling this system myself. So I thought to myself, at first I can dismantle the music itself, the music's influence.
Yeah.
So whether it be the spaces of hip hop or dance or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Anyone that was up there or influential, I would ensure that I've got a more influential voice than them. So I wasn't punching down, I was punching up. And the reason why is because I saw that they could be used as tools to mask what is going on. I don't know if you remember, in the run-up to the 2019 elections, it was, Cyril was busy doing lives with all the celebrities. Zinhle was here, Keenan was there. You understand what I'm saying? Everyone, and I was like, the celebrities are going to go wherever the supper is being served. You know?
Are they wrong though?
Yes, very wrong. Very
But
wrong.
why? I get about no mchana. So when you are saying they are wrong, someone is trying to make sure that we protect, to defend Indlala, Chief.
That's true. But if everyone knows that politicians buy celebrities, buy influence, buy everything, why would you let everyone know that you're for sale? You've got no honor, no integrity, no dignity.
Yeah, Chief. They say bring back the money, Chief. Because you got in this money that said the COVID relief, what. I mean, we saw a list coming out. What was that about?
Okay, so I mean, like, even that, it's like they were giving people the 20,000, 70,000, whatever the case may be. There are certain people who feel like they're entitled to rule over everybody else. And, our existence in South Africa as Black people has been very egalitarian for a long time. There was no rich Black person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we lived in one class. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, even the royal families, they had their powers stripped. We lived in Bantustans, the homeland. So, there was a system that was imposed by, the minority Afrikaner government, So we've always been on the same playing field. Now, when you now start to create these disparities among us, you change the way in which we see one another.
Yeah.
And you change the way in which we relate to one another and engage with one another. And you're basically setting up a war amongst Black people, a civil war. So the way I see it is that there's no way in which the system itself will ever allow us to live normal lives. We've progressed beyond that, right? But it just takes a few people being determined to lead us to a path in which the existence that we are subjected to right now becomes obvious enough for everyone else to see, for them to free themselves, and be determined to say, okay, I'm going to live my life by my own rules, and I won't be commanded by whoever is in power or whoever has money or has influence. And the importance of removing the I don't know what it is, but you know, that star element that people feel or they must bow to people or everything else is is something that I was able to see just through watching what's this thing Zola 7 as a kid.
Yeah.
So Zola, unfortunately for him, it affected him personally. He wasn't able to maintain Zola 7. But Zola 7 was the biggest celebrity in the country.
Yeah.
But he'd just go to any and every nobody. And you just be chilled, and they wouldn't be like, oh, okay, hi, thank you for coming, Zola. Oh, we're so happy. Yes, we're excited. But okay, cool. Help us with this. And it was like normal. He was just a gassy guy. So, you know, it was normal.
Yeah.
Like, we've never seen something like that, you know? And once he moved from where he was, then we had this new class of celebrities that were, you know, Hollywood superstars, or at least aiming for that, or trying to pretend as if they're living that life. You know what I mean? And that was, you know, a sign that, or their acceptability, the fact that people accepted that was a sign that we're changing the way in which we see ourselves as people. Because, like I said, we come from a very egalitarian society. So once someone starts acting like a celebrity, it's like, no, this is Simzansi. Like, what do you mean? Agna celebrate Simzansi. Like, what the hell? Agna paparazzi. Like, what the hell are you talking about? You don't get paparazzi in South Africa. So why are there people that think that they're celebrities?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Your picture's not worth money. You know what I mean? So like, once you were able to remove that level of, this is someone who's superior to the next person.
Yeah. Kahle yazi mokusho njalo ne kulo mqondo wami ofika manje. I want us to unpack something because sesiya more towards obviously your rapper. Can you draw a contrast between the now, which is the internet, the world of the internet, and the traditional route, whether you're saying SABC, DSTV, multi-choice, ukhuluma nge-mainstream media, because now there's big business ngapha, yabona? So I want us to tally lezinto and draw a contrast to say, yes, young people, you're exposed, now more opportunities. Where do you see this going? Do you think my chances of surviving mainstream? Are we still going to have some longevity to it? Or are we seeing the end of era where now data is taking over?
You see, what made mainstream media work was stars. You don't have stars anymore. And you don't have the power that you used to have to make people stars anymore. People decide who their stars are. You know what I mean? You can't stop Shebe Shit from going on a podcast and getting 1 million views in 3 or 4 days or whatever, whatever the case may be. You can't stop it. It can happen.
Yeah.
It can happen. You understand? Doesn't matter who you are. So that is basically the death knell for mainstream media. So now all they can have is talent.
Yeah.
And if you can block people from being able to watch Messi play, you've stopped them from being able to see the talent. And that's what the television and mainstream media have resorted to doing, is to restricting the places where you can watch them by buying out the rights. And I think for live events, that works. But for everything else, that's not working. So even looking at consumption patterns, people watch YouTube on their televisions. You know, people's televisions are for watching YouTube more than anything else. The watch time on each and every single television device. Samsung knows, you know, Samsung's got a little camera on the TV. It's watching you. You know what I mean? It knows how many of you are watching. You know what I mean? It tells them at Google. You've got an Android TV, right? Yeah, so you're telling Google all your watching patterns.
Yeah.
And that's why YouTube is got, you know, a unique position, because it's like the default thing. Everyone else has to produce high quality content that is really expensive to produce to be able to charge whatever subscription fee. So I mean, you look at Netflix. The danger is that anywhere in the world where Netflix is watched, right, the productivity of that country drops. So these streaming platforms, right, the amount of time that they're stealing from people is growing the unproductive hours of our economies.
Yeah.
And therefore, you know, the amount of content that is now available out there is stifling the innovation for anything else, you know, to come about, because people are doing less and less. People are Netflix and chilling. They chill the whole entire day, you know, watching Netflix. It gives them a dopamine. You can sit the whole day watching Netflix. The problem with that is that you're not sitting thinking, fuck, I'm not doing anything with my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And the time is moving away. And then you're separating yourself from television, because television basically keeps you up to date with news and sports and what everybody else is doing, and advertisements. And you end up secluding yourselves in like little rabbit holes. And because of how much content is produced, there's enough to feed an insatiable appetite. And people are therefore becoming zombies. So it's an unsustainable loop. You know what I mean? You can't pay for Netflix if you can't work. And these guys who own these systems, who've socialized us and programmed us in the way in which they've programmed us, they're facing a gigantic problem in that, apart from the fact that there won't be a working population enough to sustain civilization, because the reason why we work is so that we can put our money in savings and pension funds and everything else and medical aids, so that they can take care of our parents, because they use our money to take care of our parents. You know what I mean? And so we can live old age, because you only work until you're 60, 65, and then you live until you're 90 nowadays. You know what I mean? And those 30 years of earning, you're not working. So the system itself is unsustainable. And life as we know it is dwindling in terms of the amount of things that one can do that aren't going to be replaced by some level of automation. So you look at the timeline of like digital banking. Let's look at that and that industry, right? Before there was digital banking, you had to go into a bank, you know what I mean, the institution, you had to, everything you had to do, deposit, withdrawal, you had to, then they came up with the ATM machine, then they came up with the credit cards, now you're swiping, you know what I mean? And then because of credit cards and credit and people buying, the banking sector grew. And they took over the whole of Sandton. Well, they practically built it, you know. Every single bank was there. Now when you drive through Sandton at 4 p.m., there's no traffic. Now when you drive through Sandton, on each and every single office building, there's a to let sign. 15 years ago, that wasn't the case. That's how quickly it happened with banking. We're at a faster pace right now. So there's going to be absolutely no justification for South Africa to have a mainstream media sector when more people will watch or be influenced or see or be exposed to Mbuyiseni Ndlozi on Podcast and Chill than when he's streaming or broadcasting on both Power FM and ENCA at the same time. The MacG one will have more impact. It will have more impact than the SABC one, which was an exclusive, and the first one he did just a day earlier or 2 days earlier, or even 3 days earlier. I think it played on Monday at 6 a.m. You know what I mean? It'll have more impact. And the advertisers who are spending money, they still want to sell their products. And there's a dwindling market to sell their products. So they're going to stop wasting their money on mainstream media. And the only reason why they're spending their money on mainstream media is because there's an entanglement between the advertising agencies and the media companies. So the advertising agencies, the media companies, and the parent companies, the banks, they're all owned by the same companies. So it's just companies that are enriching each other and themselves. And that's why they can control the fact that their money goes onto their platforms. Prime Media wants its money from its other industries to go into the old mutual money needs to go into Prime Media, needs to go into 702. But they're putting money into a platform which they have ownership of, and they've got a bird's eye view of how it is gaining less and less influence.
Yo.
You know?
Yeah,
so,
no, that's very insightful.
So the next step that happens after this, right, is that online media overtakes traditional media in terms of the money that it makes.
Yeah.
Once that step has taken place, it'll be almost instantaneous that all these other channels will start having to shut down and shut their doors. And another thing is that once there's satellite internet that's connected everywhere, because the satellite internet thing, right, is the actual biggest challenge to almost anything, because wireless technology and connectivity, right, the biggest innovation so far is 5G.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
There's 6G that they're working on, you know what I mean? But because the signal goes to such a short distance,
Yeah.
you have to have towers everywhere. And the companies that have got the capital to put those towers out there are already the established mobile companies.
Yeah.
But now, once the countries stop the regulations that give them market access and create that monopoly, satellite power has got, no limitations in terms of whoever has got enough funds to send up satellites into the sky can basically own the world's connectivity.
Yeah.
And that then creates zero barriers of entry for them in any market globally. You can't right now count on an advertiser from New York sponsoring your thing because you don't have reach that side.
Yeah.
Now, that's the same with almost every company. They need to invest in stretching themselves out to different markets. Once you're shooting satellites into the sky, you don't need to do that. That investment is already happening with those satellites that are going into the sky. You're getting global. And that's going to kill everything. There's no reason for MTN if you've got a cell phone signal that's coming from a satellite in the sky.
Yeah.
And when you're in a building, there's Wi-Fi as well, which is captured from the sky and then it's sent to whatever's the receiver on the ground. Everything dies. So you're looking at all the cell phone companies dying in the next 10 years at most. All the television stations dying. Everything moving to streaming.
Anything traditional.
Everything. I mean, they did the Beyonce show on Netflix, right?
Yeah.
They did the what you call the NFL Christmas special.
Yeah.
It was on Netflix,
Yeah.
so people could stream it on Netflix.
Yeah.
They did the Logan Paul Mike Tyson fight, and then it crashed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But maybe they did that crashing just to, make people feel the possibility of it. So a lot of the big cable licensing deals are dying out. I mean, Disney's got Hulu. So from 2027, they're taking over the Grammys, CBS. Fox already has the Super Bowl. That's also part of the same company with Bob Iger. So from what I'm seeing in terms of their investments, they've got like a 5-year plan rolled out. As far as Disney's patents, a lot of their things are coming into the public domain. Mickey Mouse, all those types of things. They're losing their IP, the copyright over those things. Anyone can start using Mickey Mouse or whatever. Happy birthday to you, the song. You can start using it very soon. You know what I mean? All these things.
Where do we now improve? Here is MacG. Where do you think we are lacking? As Sila. Abantu bayastreama benza yonke lento sila ku-internet, but where do you think we need to maybe pick up our success? Whether ukhuluma Madam Speaker, ukhuluma Skeem, ukhuluma nge-Saint Twins, ngikhuluma ngayo le yethu man.
Nah, I don't think there's anything that one can say about improving the current situation for any of the content creators that are active right now. I think that is its own self-fulfilling prophecy. You know what I mean? I mean, I've been committed to, visiting as many platforms as possible. Not because I just want to be self-promoting, just because I'm trying to encourage people to stay within the space. You know what I mean? And also, I'm pretty much acutely self-aware of my reach myself. You know what I mean? And I understand that my time on a platform can be valuable to someone. And that I should not deny that to anyone. And that my ultimate goal, right, myself personally, when it comes to what's happening with the media space is to completely disempower anything that's in the traditional space. Yeah. So any media practitioner can go back to the old days where if you made shoes for your village, and that was your business, and that was practically your farm. And then your son would become a shoemaker, you know what I mean? Your grandson, when it comes to the media space, because I felt the frustration myself when I was trying to get my music onto the mainstream media and how difficult that was. And because people had those gates kept, you had to pay your way in, and you had to fight your way in, and you had to prove yourself. And that was a really unfair system. So the people that are consistent are going to be rewarded, you know what I mean? And they're building a library of content, which is going to be a great time capsule of the greatest time for human civilization, well, that we know of. You know what I mean? Life is better for a lot more people than it was in any era that we've heard of or that's been written about. You know what I mean? The poverty of today is not the poverty of 500 years ago, 100 years ago, 2,000 years ago, during Jesus's time. You know what I mean? During Jesus's time, you weren't going to jail. You were carrying a cross onto a rock. You know what I mean? And then you were being nailed to it. And then that was your punishment. You know what I mean? And that was normal. And people would watch and it would be like, oh, yes, okay, they crucified him. You know what I mean? So we're living in the best of times. And we are also opportune in that we're living in the best country in the world. You know what I mean? And the thing is that you can only see that through physical evidence. We're literally a civilization at the bottom of the world. Like any time I travel further north, I tell them I come from the bottom of the earth. You know what I mean? After us, there's no humanity or civilization. There's just labs. And coming from this place is also a place where we've got two hemispheres, the East and the Western Hemisphere, meeting at our Cape Point, or and you've got two oceans, the Atlantic Ocean and the Indian Ocean meeting. And all orders of the world have to meet here. And this is the conflict point. And you're even watching it happening right now. China is in the ascendancy on the Eastern Hemisphere. You know what I mean? America is on the decline, but, still has the hegemony on the Western Hemisphere. And both of them right now are kicking up their biggest fight against us and over us, over influence over us. You know what I mean? The US wants to have a favorable relationship with South Africa. And it does not have that. And it doesn't have any leverage to force that. You know what I mean? And it's plainly obvious for the entire world to see. And everybody else is seeing that, because the US is so desperate to control South Africa, that makes South Africa very valuable. So the EU itself, is coming in and saying, hey, we're throwing our hat in. India has thrown their hat in. The whole entire world is fighting over us. And if you still remember the mood in the country in 2010, the first time our girls got exposed to international dick.
There was no better way. That's Nota to say that.
The first time, Abantu bethu, that whole entire, it was a very cold month that month.
Yeah.
And all our girls were gone. Like, you remember it like it was yesterday, dog. They were busy with Argentinians, with Mexicans. The next week, Santon was vibing. Well, I'm from Santon, so that's all I saw. So that excitement, you know what I mean? Is like, damn, our women are fire. Yo, the whole world is like, can't believe their minds. And it's like South Africa is fire. South Africa is fire. So by the time it catches a light, you need to have already got some momentum going. You need to have hit the ground running. So to the people that are sleeping on themselves and taking over this space and basically fulfilling their potential, especially within this media space, this online space, I think that those are the only people that I've got anything to say to, is that, you are basically, you're holding us up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We're trying to fill the pool right now. And you're like the hole in the hose pipe. You know what I mean? So that is where we need to focus on encouraging more people. And that can only happen once you guys start collaborating a lot more. You know, because no one can just watch Skeem GP the whole day and only Skeem GP. You know what I mean? You're sharing these audiences, and you need to grow the pot and the pool for yourselves so that when you're now drinking from this pool, it's a gigantic pool. You've got an Olympic-sized pool to drink from. But now if it's just like a little puddle that we're creating, and you know, there's hating on each other and there's competing in a collaborative way, then it's going to fizzle out. And we also need to remember, especially us that are Black voices, that, you know, that inclination is a very Western ideology. And I remind you guys again, like Westerners, most of them, they're whites. They're not on the evolutionary hierarchy at our level. You know what I mean? So you can compare them to, I mean, well, either way, anything that's not human is an animal. You know what I mean? Unfortunately. So, you know, we need to look at ourselves as what we are, which is superior to animals. And we need to stop trying to speak to the animals. Like, why the fuck are we speaking to animals? You know what I mean? You're like, you are a racist. That's what you tell white people. It's an animal. You know what I mean? Like, what are you saying? I'm just saying, it's like, you can explain, no, but you stole our land. Don't you understand? You stole our land. Now we want our land back. It's like, if they stole your car and now they're saying, no, pay for your car back. You don't understand. It's an animal. You can scream until you're blue in the face. You know what I mean? It's an animal. You know what I mean? Like, why do we even waste our time, like, trying to negotiate or trying to speak to them? We don't need to be explaining to things. Dude, as Black people in South Africa, we've got the majority. You understand? That's it. So what we say goes. So the thing is that white people are able to kick up a storm because we always are keen to impress them. We don't need to impress white people at all. They can protest and anything else. They can't vote for what they want. They can't do it. It's impossible. You know what I mean? And also another thing, they have one baby each. So if there's 4.5 million of them, in 70 years, there's going to be 2 million of them. In 70 years. Within your lifetime, there's going to be 2 million of them. They have one baby each because, you know what I mean? They're not replacing one another. I'm just saying, these are all the things that count against white people. It's like, that's why I never get offended by a white person. I can never be offended by a white person because I've never seen a white person as someone who can either, like, genetically, from DNA perspective, they can't be on my level. So from there, everything is like, it's uphill for all of them.
Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Nota, Baloyi. Hey, Chala, you've been nothing but good. We are great. But before Svala, your opinion on the prison out here. It's important because the system we're coming, we're going. You've heard, you've seen, you were there. You understand? You bought the t-shirt, you wore it, and the system is like a bucket of water with holes, it's leaking. So when
well, I explained this in the beginning of our conversation, is that is the system. The prison system is a symptom of the type of system that we need to live in which we need to create disparities amongst us based on class, and that's just a Western system. And because of our criminalized existence as Black people, you know, whether or not you've been into prison, you're still looked at as a potential offender. So the prison system just puts a stamp on that. And then it means that your labor can be extracted for next to nothing for the rest of your life. You know what I mean? So we need to, as Black people, stop thinking that prison is a rehab center. It's not a rehabilitation center. You know what I mean? And we also need to stop thinking that prison is immune from what's happening on the outside world. I mean, when you're in prison, just think about this. You watch, let's say someone is able to smuggle a phone inside the prison, right? That's an uncontroversial point. There's reports about how many phones have been smuggled, how much drugs have been smuggled in, all that stuff is public knowledge. You know, let's say you're watching a phone, and then on this phone, you're watching a woman in Rockville, Soweto, with a gun in her hand and she's shooting. Bah, 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 bah. And you're amazed. You know why? Because you're in prison and no one's got a gun in prison.
I get you.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
As in, when we are in prison, we are seeing what's happening on the outside world and we're shocked. Like, am I in the street? Someone is just firing a gun like that. Lucy's yo. You. So the outside world is much more dirty and than prison.
Yeah.
Think about it. Like, you're safer in prison than you are on the outside world.
Yeah.
And that shouldn't be a mind fuck for people to the extent that they think that people that come from prison come from like a condemned place, like that's hell. You know what I mean? A place devoid of any morality or anything of the sort. You know what I mean? They should look at people that come from prison as people who've just had their freedom taken and their lives paused at a certain point, and it's like a scratch in the record. It's just you were stuck there for a while, and once you emerge from that system, you then need to be rehabilitated. That is when your rehabilitation starts.
Are you rehabilitated, Nota?
Well, I guess I wonder sometimes, I feel like it's nice to hear the sound of an ambulance and not think it's a police car coming for you. That's nice. You know what I mean? But I don't feel like the space that I was in, and what I was exposed to, and the reason that I was in prison, because of how I put myself in that frame of mind that, this is a righteous cause that I'm going for, and the people that put me here are evil. I don't think I'll ever stop wanting God to take his vengeance on them. You understand what I'm saying? And I didn't think that level of a grudge to hold against someone was something I was capable of. It's like, it's bad enough to want someone to die. But if you want someone to die in the most horrific and horrible way, you know what I mean? And on top of that, you want nothing to do with it. You want it to have been their own actions that are catching up with them. You know what I mean? It's worse than wanting to actually murder someone.
Understanding the prison system, i-justice system, sengikhuluma nge-justice cluster yonke, from uboshwe gibela van ema-court bakutrayela nangale ube nama-end user ungenile kuwo, zoyi-3 ube exposed kuzo. Do you think would ever get to a point where you hear the end of the story or the set ending story sika Senzo Mayiwa and sika AKA? Do you think sizayithola kahle kahle closure izawusolva ama-families asho ukuthi justice is served? Will we ever as a country witness justice on those cases?
Yes. The thing about the truth is that it's always there. You can't remove the truth. You know what I mean? So right now we are seeing the lie play itself out. But at a certain point in time, the lie will, cease to be, and the truth will still be there. For me, I don't feel like we'll ever recover from learning these truths. I think too much has been done to conceal these crimes, and it implicates so many people that it exposes the system for what it is and what it's made us out to be. You know what I mean? And the people that have succumbed to the system have become the same savages that they wanted to liberate themselves from. So,
are we that corrupt as a nation? Talking about the men in blue.
Well, I mean, everyone is corrupt. Everyone is corrupt to a certain extent. And the police cannot fight corruption when those who appoint them, or those who
corrupt themselves,
are the most corrupt. And their job is to ensure that they assist those with political power to get away with their corruption. It's not to serve and protect the most vulnerable from the state's overreach.
So we are playing a waiting game until further notice, and then we'll hear what will happen. Can we put an expiry date on these cases?
On which ones?
On the 2 cases?
Well, I mean, right now, under the current political system, it would cause too much upheaval.
Yeah.
So I'll say by probably 2027, by the end of 2027, we'll know for sure how long it will take to get justice, because that's December 2027 is the next ANC conference. That's going to be a big upheaval. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And whoever takes the ascendancy then is going to have each and every single incentive to disempower those that they're succeeding from having influence within their dispensation as it goes forward. You know, they're going to want to be free to do whatever it is that they want. And that's going to leave an opportunity then to ensure that, you know, no matter how far up the rot goes, it gets exposed. I mean, there's also the Thabo Bester thing.
Yeah.
That still also hasn't been served. He's on trial right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He went from serving to being on trial.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Last question, Nota. Did you wank in prison, Chief?
No.
Did you do a phone sex in prison?
No, I didn't.
That's how we wrap it up. Ladies and gentlemen, keep well and stay blessed. We love you all. Till the next episode. Salute.